Hello? Thank you. Can't hear him. I think so. Are you, Trustee Patterson, can you hear us?
Said he's Corcoran's.
Oh, we can't.
Is he muted?
I don't think so.
He can't hear you?
We know he's running for Congress.
We can't hear you.
I know. Get to my client. Is there a different?
Not that I know.
Yeah, me neither. Maybe we're uninvited.
Thought that maybe that.
How are you? We're good.
I got the good seat.
Yes. We'll put you next week because I know you're
Got one.
friendly. So.
A good amount.
Did you see this one?
No. Jeez.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, I thought this was like.
Made enough money on that air.
Yeah.
And then you just did a whole different,
Oh.
Puerto Rico, so you have to make
From
taxes.
WUS.
And then you decide you want to
Yeah.
PhD.
It's now up. I heard this story last night.
It's called the ADD, dissertation.
I was driving around.
Is where he is right now. His dissertation. So he's qualified.
Oh.
Just not, a true academic.
Right. That Patterson? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he the only one online?
what?
Is he the only one online? You see?
Find out when I do the quorum.
Oof, this is not good.
Nope, it's not.
It might be worth it to ask Brickhouse about it.
How are you?
On the side.
Keep rotating me around. Keeps me on me mentally spry to not know
you
where
hear?
I'm sitting.
I don't think so.
Ask somebody else to test.
Make sure I.
Trustee Spalding, can you hear us?
I still don't like this. I just don't like the fact that there are people behind.
Test
I agree. And it was all on one
the
side.
audio. Trustee Patterson, can you hear us?
Semicircle in it.
He's talking, but I don't know who he's talking to.
We can't hear.
When did you get your Senate to share?
Well, we can kind of tell on who has a packet and who doesn't.
Sorry.
If these don't have all the signatures, they shouldn't be giving them to us.
Tomorrow morning. There's a.
Are they, do we know, were they completed by Brad? Oh.
Principals.
I mean, that's
Tell them we're trying to get into the pipeline. Bring those kids here.
see if this one.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we don't know.
Do you know Tampa Jesuit? I did these.
July 1st.
Christy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I think it defaulted to Microsoft Teams audio, so I took it off that and
Oh,
went on to
perfect.
built-in microphone. Just in case you ever have that problem again.
Thank you.
Turn off your phone.
No, did they?
That was me. Joking. And I played it off well. I looked at Grace like, oh,
Blame the student.
it's statewide. It's a bit of a time.
You do anything
And it would be here. So like Greg something.
Well, no, nothing.
Waiting on. All we have is Spalding on there. Waiting on a couple more.
Just give me the sign that are already.
It's people like mainly 25 to 35.
That's a huge.
Just use because the application process.
My mom and dad's.
What is it called?
Leadership Florida. And the class of it would be called the Connect. Connect is the program. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But look at the dates and stuff. It's like 6 to 8, 9 things a year.
Mike,
Yeah.
busy all the time, meeting.
I told them I stole this from
Classy day. It changes like
high school. If they,
it's usually somewhere South Florida, somewhere
Yeah.
west of
I should probably show her.
check.
We can hear you.
That's the final. They're not here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a couple.
Hello, are you there?
Yes, we can hear you.
Maybe nine.
Hi. Chrissy, how are you?
Good. How are you guys? We're gonna turn on the.
I'm fine.
They can't see us right now.
There we go.
There we go. I think we're just waiting on a couple more.
You're very, very
trustees.
small.
Matthew's not in the same office.
The others coming on.
We're waiting on Anderson, Kessler,
I want to send them.
and
Saw Rufo was on. I can't.
Rufo and Jaco are there.
Pardon me?
They are there.
Okay, so
They just don't have their cameras on.
give me the sign when you're
We
ready.
can go ahead and get started. I'm just.
So there's a cocktail at the end.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 22nd. We're here for the New College of Florida Board of Trustees meeting. Thank you all for being here indoors today because outside it's a Chamber of Commerce perfect day. We appreciate your attendance. I'd ask you to stand at this time and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag Thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick, can you please call the meeting to order and call the roll?
Yes. Having a couple of trustees, if you'll just give me just a minute. I think
Sure.
We should have everybody. Okay. Trustee Anderson,
Here.
Trustee Bauerlein,
Here.
Trustee Jaco,
Here.
Trustee Karp,
Here.
Trustee Keenan,
Here.
Trustee Kessler,
Here.
Trustee Mackey,
Here.
Trustee Patterson,
Present.
Trustee Reed,
Here.
Trustee Rufo, Trustee Spalding,
Here.
Chair Jinks,
Here.
Vice Chair Cristaldi.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great.
And the meeting was publicly noticed.
Thank you. We are now moving into the public comment process. And in order to be a speaker here, we have asked that you submit your request to speak 48 hours in advance of the meeting. We have a list of 14 people who have registered for public comment. Each commenter will have 1 minute to speak and to speak about the topic that they asked to speak about based on the agenda that was sent out. Ms. Fitzpatrick will call your name, you will come to the podium and speak, and at the 1 minute mark, you will be asked to yield the microphone to the next person in line. With that, Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Okay, first up today, we have Tamara Solom, then Betsy Braden, then Kathleen Cody.
My name is Tamara Solom, and my daughter Kari graduated from New College in 2020. A year ago, Kari wrote, "Removing support and enforcing personal ideologies at a public institution only serves to alienate those who do not align with the beliefs of DeSantis and his appointed trustees. You should be proud. You have driven out over 30% of your esteemed faculty. You have lost 60 returning students, placing those who did return in hotels, and recruited athletes by dropping the academic standards. You've painted over murals, fired a beloved librarian, and awarded a political donor an online course contract not supported by faculty. Finally, you have supported Dean Rancourt, making racist and homophobic jokes at a school-sponsored ISP for students. For the sake of my daughter and the other alumni of New College, please change the name of New College to DeSantis University, so former students will not have to be associated with this neutered Hillsdale youth camp of an institution.
Betsy Braden.
I'm here to speak for the former New College students who moved away, the current students who are afraid to speak due to being bullied or expelled. The hostile takeover has caused a third of the faculty to flee or be fired, classes canceled, thesis projects interrupted, Title IX charges to be ignored. Cruelty is the point. Meanwhile, AstroTurf U has sports programs without athletic fields, online courses without faculty input, and a master's program without faculty. New College has dropped in college standards and academic standards. Good news, though. Jefferson County Public Schools are now a grade C school after Corcoran and his grifters left it an F school. New College will improve after Corcoran and his grifters are sent to the dustpan of losers such as Christian Ziegler and Trump University.
Sorry, I lost my paper real quick. Next up, we have Kathleen Cody, then Sonia Howman, and then Stephen Russell.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Cody, Charter Class 1964. I want to thank Mr. Corcoran for obtaining an agreement for the airport land purchase. This is a feather in his cap, and he should be congratulated. My concern in regard to this purchase and for all other land acquisitions is where is the planning? So far, we have had the New College Challenge and 2 public meetings with highly regarded architects, bringing beautiful designs. Money and time was spent, with no outcome that I can see. You can't plan without a budget, and so far all these ideas are seen as aspirational. We need action, not inspiration or aspiration. How much will dorms cost and how will they be funded? New College no longer feels like a residential college, and the longer the wait for new dorms that are on campus, the stronger that feeling will be. Already the sports students are bused to practices and to games. I am asking for an action plan by June 1st with a budget that puts forth to have dorms built. We need to rebuild the bricks and mortar and rebuild the trust for this community to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sonia Howman, Stephen Russell, and then Rodrigo Diaz.
It's been a year since you arrived with boots on the ground, and now it seems y'all have a big problem. A huge amount of unsuspecting Florida taxpayer dollars have been dumped into New College, and enrollment has increased by tens of students, unfortunately accompanied by an impressive fall in GPA and test scores, and the faculty continue to jump ship. And those metrics that Mr. Rufo whined about, dropout rates spiked, first-year retention plummeted, and cost per student out of control. And now, Dean of Students and comedic icon, David Bunga Bunga Rancourt, has become the interim provost, typically the highest academic post at a university, requiring 10 years of faculty admin experience, a PhD, and a strong history of grant procurement, none of which Mr. Rancourt has, although we do have athletes, AstroTurf, and a mission statement that would embarrass most English teachers. Come on, clearly you all are in over your heads academically. Do better, or change the name of the school, to protect the innocent.
Stephen Russell, then Rodrigo Diaz.
President Corcoran recently said New College is on its way to being the premier classical public liberal arts college in America. Luckily, we have the First Amendment, and he can say anything he wishes, whether or not it's true or beautiful. A year later, the changes you've made to this school are all window dressing, the proverbial lipstick on a pig. Jumbotrons, landscaping, and sports are no replacement for the loss of so many of the brilliant faculty, students, and staff that once made New College academically successful. Now you're about to become part of history for it, but not the way you hoped. You've squandered millions of our taxpayer dollars on your tired war on woke. Now the constituents of Florida grow tired of you. Administrations that roll back civil rights, remove books, and distort history are almost universally reviled in time, particularly if you waste our hard-earned money doing it. We Americans love our civil rights, which we prove at the ballot box. Florida voters are waking up to the squandering of our money and your grift. We are not amused.
I speak concerning the approval of the minutes of the last Board of Trustees meeting, which include only a summary reference to New College's classical online liberal arts degree program. A more detailed description should be part of the board's official minutes. Case in point, Brad Thiessen explained that New College would collaborate with the Ricketts Great Books College to develop content for the program. But according to the Sarasota Herald Tribune, Joe Ricketts, the founder of Ricketts Great Books College, made a statement in which he wrote, quote, "We cannot ever let Islam become a large part of our society. Muslims are naturally my enemy due to their deep antagonism and bias against non-Muslims. So I ask, what measures is New College taking to ensure that the content it develops with Ricketts will not be influenced by religious bigotry? Thank you."
Next up, we have Shannon Engel, then Diana Hagan, and Lillian Rod.
Hi, Shannon Ingalls, class of 2002. Just to remind everyone of who I am, I'm a BAFTA-nominated video game writer. My credits include God of War Ragnarok, Silent Hill, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Batman, and Ken Levine's upcoming game Judas. I actually when I moved back here in 2022, I really wanted to teach game design and use my industry contacts, which are considerable, to get students, land them dream jobs. But I can't do that because New College is no longer a place that will attract bright, innovative, and creative minds, or a place where reputable industries will recruit. And now you are seeking to attack students' rights in an attempt to dismantle their ability to self-govern. You know what's the biggest indicator of success in a young person is self-directedness, which you are seeking to eradicate. What gifted student with options wants that? Well, none of them. Which is why you've actually had to get rid of the application essay requirement for next semester. Because
Next up, we have Diana Hagan, Lillian Rod.
I'm an alum from the USF era and a parent of a first-year student. Early years President Elmendorf is known to have said that it's part of the New College culture to engage in creative change from within, which I've always thought consistent with the philosophy that each student is responsible in the last analysis for his or her own education. In student life, this is put in practice through the robust, participatory student government and engaging creatively with the administration in the face of inevitable changes. So you can be confident that with the influx of mission-aligned students, a student government would surely align on its own. However, this new student governance regulation expands on the Boggs regs by authorizing oversight of all legislation, rather than subjecting only internal procedures to the approval. Let's be clear, active administration, control of student clubs, financial decisions, and the like in this way is against the long-standing fundamental academic principles and is a significant change, more significant than abolishing DEI.
Yes, I am. I got it. I'm kidding.
My name is Lillian Raud, and I'm a resident of Upland and New College alumni. I'm here to oppose a removal of Regulations 35101 Campus Master Plan from the New College Regulations Manual. I have just submitted the same request from the Neighborhood Association I gave to this gentleman, who is going to pass it over to you after all the speakers have spoken. This regulation defines New College of Florida's responsibilities under the Florida Statute 101330, which governs campus master plans and development agreements. Removing it would eliminate vital process guidelines and create ambiguity regarding New College compliance with the state law, plus reduce visibility into who specially reviews and updates the plan. Non-compliance has already led to creation of proposals such as the Freedom Institute and the opening on Uplands Boulevard to college traffic, which conflicts with the current plan's preservation goals and the development agreement with Sarasota City. We need more transparency and accountability, not less. Let's uphold and update regulations.
Next up, we have Peter Shellhorn and then Karen Stack.
My name is Peter Shellhorn, and I object to the abandonment of the Campus Master Plan Regulation 35101. I just provided the same request from the Uplands Neighborhood Association for the official record. The items should never have been added to the consent agenda. For consent agendas to function, all topics must be familiar, require no discussion, and involve no conflict. Consent agendas should be crafted with care since the items are not discussed by the board. They should not be used to hide important issues or stifle difficult discussions. If even one member of the board hasn't read or fully understood any item on the consent agenda, such items should be placed on the regular agenda and discussed. Otherwise, there is no informed consent. Therefore, I urge at least one board member to request that item 35101 be removed from the consent agenda.
Thank you. Last public commenter for the day, I'm sorry, second to the last is Karen Stack, followed by Tracy Farrow.
I object to the abandonment of Campus Master Plan Regulation 530101. I've just provided the same request from the Uplands Neighborhood Association for the official record. It's unclear why the board thinks this regulation is inconsistent with Florida statute. Nothing in Campus Master Plan Regulation is inconsistent with the Florida Constitution, state, or BOG regulation. USF, our neighbors to the north, have their version, Policy 6020, the File Management Program, which states all goals, objectives, policies, standards, findings, conclusions within the master plan shall be based upon relevant and appropriate data. If 35101 needs updated verbiage, do it, but do not eliminate this critical data-driven master planning process. It's the data that determines numbers, sizes, where buildings are located on the master plan maps, along with projections for roads, traffic, etc. Before master plan maps are drawn up, there needs to be a data-driven master plan. Do not abandon the campus master plan regulation.
Last commenter for the afternoon is Tracy Farrow, and then we have one other public comment to read into the record.
You guys will be happy to know that I lost, what do you want this? Oh, sorry. You happy to know that I lost most of my speech, but Corcoran has called for civil discourse and needs to show leadership in this area. Apparently, Corky and the majority of this board need guidance and definition on the rules of civil discourse, as they have mocked and ignored them since their hostile takeover announcement January 6th. First, Don't interrupt or talk over someone else who is speaking, Rufo. No eye-rolling, sighing, or checking out of the conversation, Bauerlein. Don't embarrass yourself or disrespect others by making demeaning or inappropriate comments, facial expressions, or gestures, Rufo. Civil discourse embodies the values of civic learning, open-mindedness, and compromise, as well as mutual respect. At this point, civil discourse has not been a part of any DOT meeting I have seen or attended, so let me be very clear. The gloves are off and we're used to fighting for our rights. We've had to do it forever, and we won't back down. We won't give up, and newsflash, we will win.
The last public commenter was from John O'Miller, who was unable to be here, speaking on behalf of NCF Freedom. I'm going to read what he submitted to us into the record. First, congratulations for negotiating a strategy to obtain the vast majority of the East Bay campus from the airport, even if the college will surrender some uses. Second, while securing additional properties for the college is a worthwhile goal, parcels contiguous with other members of the SUS should probably accrue to those institutions. This parcel has been shown as recreation/open space at Manatee's future land use plan. Finally, students learn not just from their teachers and peers, but also from the administration. Blithely ignoring adopted procedures and regulations is not an admirable lesson, and the college has been ignoring Regulation 3-5101 on the way to expunging it.
That concludes our public comment.
Thank you. Trustees, you've all received the agenda, and you've received the information regarding the consent agenda. Can I have a motion and a second, and then we can discuss the consent?
I would recognize Trustee Reed.
Trustee Reed?
I think I would like to request that several of the items be removed from the consent agenda.
Sure. Can you just go down the order of the list, please?
Student government.
Wait a minute. Okay, got
The
it.
campus master plan.
Hang on. Got it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Move approval of the remaining items.
Pardon me?
I move approval of the remaining items.
Thank you. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Other than the two items that have been pulled off by Trustee Reed, we'll take them in order.
So you'll call for a motion to approve 6-1001 in a second, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
So we're going to have I'm asking for a motion to approve Regulation Amendment 6-1001, Student Governance. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Now we can open it for discussion.
And if you want to recognize Mr. Brickhouse to answer questions, you can do that.
And we'll have Counsel David Brickhouse available to answer questions, but since Trustee Reed and Trustee Keenan are both raising their hands and nodding, I don't know who wants to go first. So if you have questions, David Brickhouse is at the podium there, so you could direct your questions to him.
Thank you. So I handed out two possible versions of amendments.
Let me just say we're recognizing Trustee Keenan.
Thank you. And so the first page that you all should have received, and those online should have gotten an email from Christy, I believe. Yeah. So you can see the language there. So this first amendment, this is what I made prior to this meeting that I believe makes a lot more sense, so I'll explain this. The first change is to change the word legislation. So after reading through the BOG regulations and the Florida statutes, I think it makes more sense to stay in alignment with what the Board of Governors Regulation 1.001 says, which allows the Board of Trustees to approve internal procedures of student government organizations, which is our Constitution and bylaws. I just was explicit about that in the regulation. And then the second part is I took some aspects of actually UCF's regulations to clarify the process of how this would go. I added an amendment that would say in 10 days we would need a response, and then after 10 days we would assume it's approved, just for my sake, for the VP of Student Affairs' sake, so that we can keep things moving. Otherwise, the VP of Student Affairs could never recognize the change, and then we'd be in a tough spot. So I think this just clarifies the process, as the original regulation was a little bit open-ended. Does anybody have any questions about that specifically? Yeah.
Trustee Keenan, I interpret that as a motion to amend.
Yes.
Okay, so you go for a second.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay.
Questions and discussion.
Yep. Do we have any questions or discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, could you just explain is there an operational impact from the second part of the amendment that we should be concerned about? Our council going to
Can you see Mr. Brickhouse? He's at the podium.
Yes, I'm trying to make sure I understand your question, Trustee Kessler, in terms, could you restate the question? I want to make sure I follow you.
It's trustees. I was just, operational, as I understand the amendment, it's to change it such that if, the trustee can correct me if I'm wrong, to change it such that if the student governance did something and it wasn't approved by the student affairs VP within 10 days, it automatically passes. Is that correct?
Correct.
What's the operational effect of that in terms of, I can see on the one hand, it makes things move along faster, but it also that could create a mess. I'm just wondering, is there any concern over that?
I would say, Trustee Spalding, that's from UCF, correct?
Yep.
That verbatim language.
Well, they have a different title for VPs.
But they have the 10-day provision.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, it's at the largest university in the state and top 5 in the country. And if at any point in time it became some sort of a operational nightmare, we could always come back to the trustees and say we needed to make it 14, 30 days. But I think right now it's completely acceptable.
Good, they're fine. Great, thanks.
And to clarify, it's if there's not action to disapprove. If it's approved, the 10-day period doesn't matter.
I mean, approve sooner.
Yeah. The way it was framed, I just want the record straight.
Do we have any other questions on the proposed amendment by Trustee Keenan? So, all in favor of the passing of the regulation as amended by this motion?
Of the amendment.
Of the amendment, passing the amendment.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, so we will show that the amendment has passed to 6-1001.
Second one.
Correct. And
okay.
then there's a second amendment.
Well, I'll just leave it at that. So I'll move to motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor, say aye.
If I could just say for clarification, part of my questions about these came from the fact that the changes were not actually noted in the copy of the regulations that we received. It said that there would be strike-throughs and underlines indicating what was being taken out and what was not, and that was not visible in the copy of the document as I received it.
And Trustee Reed, that's correct. That's on us, and I apologize. We'll work that out. But between putting the packets together and then having it go to comms and uploaded, a lot got dropped off.
Yep. So
I would hope it won't. I'm hoping it will never happen again.
I just want it to be clear. One of the reasons why I wanted that pulled off was because it wasn't at all clear what was going on.
Fair enough. I apologize.
So can we call the vote on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, we're going to take up 3-5101.
Yes, and then
Campus master plan.
Trustee Reed pulled off, yes. So do we have a motion to approve the regulation amendment 3-5101 campus master plan? That was separately considered.
I have it up here if you
I'll
would
move
like.
to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Do we have a second?
Yep, it's on screen.
Do we have a second for the motion? Second? Okay.
Second.
Thank you. All right, any discussion?
Are we supposed to address our questions to Mr. Brickhouse about this? So I'm just wondering if you can explain why
you think it's appropriate to strike the provision of the campus master plan from the regulations.
So Trustee Reed, as we've discussed several times offline, the Florida Board of Governors has an extensive set of regulations on the campus master plan in which we're complying with. And so when you review those in contrast to what our existing regulation shows, there's some important discrepancies. And what's really important about that is our regulation says if you follow our process, once you do that, we have a new legally binding master plan. And that does not comply with the statutory requirements nor the Board of Governors requirements. One of the other issues is you take our existing regulation. There's no call for public notice. There's no call for public comment. There's no advertising requirements versus the process that we're complying with under BOG calls for at least 3 publicly noticed and advertised meetings, interfacing with local government agencies to get comments, and several other requirements. So does that answer your question?
Well, yes and no, right? I don't believe that you and I have had any exchange about these regulations. So you may have discussed them with other people, but I have not been privy to that. I was a little concerned in the fall when the question of the scheduling of the campus master plan meeting came up. It seemed like there wasn't actually enough time for community engagement, neither with people on campus nor people off. I attended the one meeting in December, and so I was concerned about that. Add on to that today the number of people from the community, including John O'Miller, who is a longstanding member of the New College community. He worked here on campus for a long time and was very involved in campus space. If they are concerned that as members of this local community, they're not being engaged in this, I'm concerned with why this is being struck. So you may be saying it's in order to enhance the process, but that's not really clear to me.
I'll just, I mean, here's how I'd synopsize it, Trustee Reed. First of all, there's the process that the Board of Governors set that we're coming into compliance with. That process is much more open and much more transparent, as David Brickhouse just mentioned, compared to the Campus Master Plan. The Campus Master Plan Committee has not been constituted in I don't know, it's even completely years and years and years, hasn't even met in like 4 or 5 years. And and not only is it not even duplicative, what we're adding is much more expansive than what's required by the Campus Master Plan Committee. But so not only is it inefficient and ineffective, it doesn't even afford all of the opportunities that we do with the Board of Governors Campus Master Plan. Anybody who is on that committee, this room has been filled twice already, and there's another one in another 90 days to go through the whole Campus Master Plan process of public hearings and public testimony. Some of the people you've mentioned have been active participants, not just in these meetings, but in my president's office going through suggestions on the Campus Master Plan. This is a completely unnecessary committee that does not afford anything bigger, broader, or more open or transparent than what this process is that you're amending today.
So you're talking, so basically, right, you are striking what is in campus regulations about master planning and saying we will abide by state regulations.
Which is far more transparent, far more affords greater public input.
But that has not been shared with us. I'm a little unclear on, I mean, I don't have a copy of that. That's not in our records today, I believe.
That is 100% what we're doing today.
I have one more question, if that's all right. So if we're getting rid of this, why are we not replacing it with what is compliant with BOG? Isn't that what we usually do?
Yes, technically, we do that in a number of instances when BOG says you shall have a regulation on X, Y, and Z. In this case, looking at every other institution at SUS, none of them have a campus master planning regulation. Because BOG's regulation is so extensive, it would take a lot of time and effort on the administration to consistently manicure that to make sure any legislative change that occurs or any BOG change that occurs, we would then have to go and amend our regulation. It's far simpler to just have one source of truth and look to the BOG regulation.
So, but is there a possibility that we could come back and if we get rid of this regulation, we'll be follow and compliant with BOG, but is there a possibility of having future regulations within ours for the master plan? if
Yes.
there's something we want to bring back to this committee.
More than open to that.
I guess my only other question is, why are people in the community feeling like this means that they're being cut out of the conversation? We had several people here speaking.
Quiet, please.
And so that's my question, right?
It's not an issue. I mean, I can't speak for them, but it is a much more transparent, open, public notice, public hearing process than ever before. And we've been through this mandatory process back in 16, the original master plan process. What we're doing now is far more expansive, far more transparent, asking for far greater input from the community than ever done before. It's not even close. And the committee that you're trying to save is not only not constituted, hasn't met in over 5 years.
Well, I'd say the Campus Space Committee also hasn't met, right? And that was also another mechanism through which people, stakeholders on the campus, were able to express their opinions about the way this campus should look, and that's been just disbanded, correct?
There's been a lot of committees, Trustee Reed, since I've been here in 11 months. I've met with, I don't know how many students, how many times at different parts of this campus on things that they would like to do. I'd be shocked if you find a student that says that somehow they have not had any kind of input with the campus space or gardens or everything. I mean, that's not an issue. But I mean, honestly, if we want to have 10, 15, 20 committees that really aren't doing anything, I mean, I think that is somewhat of the pattern of the past.
Yes, Trustee Keenan.
Could this be tabled until we have a comprehensive plan of what this master plan is going to look like and how we're going to get in community input?
It's already in existence, it's in statute, and it's been presented at numerous meetings here in this room,
Mr.
walking through the
President,
process.
Just distill it down. What the BOG regulation and the statute provide is what we're bound by right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no tabling it, that's what we're bound by. And both of those are available, and I can understand Trustee Reed, it probably would have been helpful to see those. But the BOG took action based on the statute to make it a more rigorous due process. And what currently existed, and this happens very often with institutions, what we had become inconsistent, was it not compliance, and thus really unenforceable under the law. So we joined the other SUS institutions in saying the BOG pursuant to statute has created a methodology. We will stand silent, which means that methodology controls.
Any other questions? So seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval of Regulation 3-5101, Campus Master Plan, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, on my agenda, we're up to the President's report. Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll go through some stuff, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. We just talked about the Campus Master Plan process, but as an update, we've held 2 public sessions here in Sudikoff. We're now going through and checking with different agencies. We'll have the 90-day period that we're in with right now. That'll lead to probably another public meeting in May. Hopefully, by then, we can get to some sort of amended plan that would be before the Board of Trustees in June, just to give you sort of the timeline. And of course, as has been discussed by the trustees, at any point in time, people have input or comments. It's completely open throughout this entire period, and the more suggestions, the more counsel we have, hopefully the better the result will be. Christy, I think, put together just to give you guys updates, especially if you're haven't been able to come on the campus, but here's some just campus improvements that have taken place in the last 11 months. You know, the field at the front was, can we go back one, Christy? The field in the front was overrun. It's been resodded, sprinklers were put in, and we're using it as temporary. On one end of it is temporary batting cages and pitching for the baseball and softball teams. But ultimately, this would be a green area, and this is the area that we have a donor who's given us committed $500,000 to make it a permanent green space heretofore. So we're working with his landscape architect on what that would look like. He's going to give us some proposals, and then we'll share them and move forward in that process. A lot of the buildings that were in disrepair when we got here have completely been restuccoed, resided, repainted. This is the Four Winds Cafe, and as you can see, it's been completely redone inside and out. It's beautiful. And now we have Mama G's, a legendary bakery breakfast place that's there and serving students and the community around, or regular attenders now at our Four Winds Cafe. This is the inside of our legendary college hall, which was Charles Ringlane's home. The entire inside has undergone, I think it started at $300,000, went to $600,000, and we're probably pushing $1 million of renovation on the inside. But it's beautiful. We use it for admissions and for events. Tonight we have an event with a bunch of headmasters from schools all across the state. We'll eat dinner there and talk to them about sending their graduates to us. But it's been a completely redone. It's beautiful. You remember the pool's been completely redone. I know one of the public commenters mentioned the Jumbotron. To our chagrin, it's not up yet, but it will be. It's really just the electrical. The building behind that, as you can see, is a warehouse. And we stuccoed and painted it and redid the lines in the pool, redid the grass and the landscaping around the pool. But the electrical on that wall is still a little bit difficult. The Jumbotron is ordered and paid for. We just need to get it hooked up electrically, but hopefully that will be done in the next 30 to 60 days. We have a historic outdoor classroom right by the waterfront. Due to the hurricane and just wear and tear, the roof was completely damaged. We worked as required with the Indian tribe and redid the entire roof over the summer, and now it's back in full use and fully functional and no issues with it. If you come and you drive down College Drive, you'll see where we had two very dilapidated, broken down, unusable, kind of yellow corrugated plastic greenhouses. You guys might remember it when you first got here in February. Both of those have been taken down. We've cleared the ground and have the new greenhouse. So by the next April meeting, that greenhouse will be up and as you drive down the road, you'll see the beautiful landscaping in the greenhouse, which will be fully functional and with a greater capacity and usage than our previous ones. The 58th Street extension, which was in the works for probably close to 10 years, that has been completed. So now it's a full loop. It's a much greater safety issue. It also allows, I think, more integration of the full part of the west side of the campus. But that's fully functional, and you'll see that when you come back. For those on the phone, you'll see it. Robertson Park is what we call it right now. It will get named. There's a donor that's reached out to us who's very interested in having it named after him. That donor is also an alumni, so it's super powerful. But I think we'll ultimately rename the park, hopefully after the individual. But basically, it has multiple seating area. It has a fire pit that overlooks the water. It's open. We have it open mostly from Tuesday to Saturday, but it's, we're slowly building that following. We're talking about maybe doing some free meals for students. First 50 people or something get the food truck meals for free to get more student activity out there. But it's growing. We see more of the community than we actually see of our students right now. But it's a beautiful spot, completely transformed right there on the water, just south of Robertson Hall. We had a Super Bowl party or Super Bowl viewing party. It wasn't on our Jumbotron. That should have been in that gap that you're seeing right there. But we had tons of, that whole area has been re-landscaped. New turf been put down. They play corn toss and everything right there in that grass. But we set up the TV and had a great showing for the Super Bowl. The grass out in the front, we get a lot of criticism, and we don't want to do it. We want to do it sparingly and only those spots where it's difficult. If you guys recall, this area was grass, but it was really probably 50% dirt, 50% grass. It was hard to keep up. Over the summer, we put in new turf, and if you go out there on any given day, you'll see our students all over the grass and all the spots that we did it, and it looks fantastic year-round.
That's all of them.
So that's just a couple of the updates. What's not on there, but it's, as the construction says, it's begun now, our Pritzker Marine Biology. As you guys recall, we got over $3 million for it from the legislature. That's undergoing a complete renovation. It'll have a deck that'll overlook the water. It's stabilizing both the freshwater and saltwater tanks. It's stabilizing the ground, and it's completely restuccoed, repainted with a brand new deck for receptions and classroom activities, et cetera, on the outside. So that'll be done also by August. Those are some of the quick updates. The Tallahassee update, I just got back last night. I was up there. I lose track of days when I do the Tallahassee trip. That drives rough. But I was just up there. It's going better. You know, it's an election year. You have, you know, the speaker and the president are in their last term. There's just a ton of dynamics that are going. Obviously, we've gotten tremendous support. We took I would say 20 plus, give or take, people up there. We had about 4 or 5 students. We had some alumni. We had some trustees. We had some staff. And it was our second really run at a new college day. And we were fantastically well received. We had a reception on a brand new Governor's Inn balcony. It was very well attended. And we had great meetings with the Senate President, with the Speaker, with the approach chairs. And I think that was very compelling. And so this trip, when I went up just by myself, last 2 days, followed up with all those folks, had a great meeting with the governor. The support's there, so we'll see where it all shakes out. But right now, we're optimistic that we're somewhere going to have another additional, hopefully somewhere in the ballpark of $20 million or more, which will allow us to continue to make those reservations. They also are very complimentary of the fact that we are growing, and that we also, you know, shuttered dorms that were not safe for students, and they recognize that combination is very difficult for us, and I think we're going to see help in that regard too. But I'll keep you posted on that. They're in the final 2 weeks. Next week will be the final end of conference, and probably whatever comes out of conference will be a pretty good indicator of where we stand. So, and then it goes to the governor for veto, but he's been tremendously supportive, so we feel very good about, really our fight right now is in the next week and during this conference period. I passed out for you guys, I think Trustee Keenan at the Academic Affairs Committee wanted the regular updates, and so we'll get you these regular updates. You can see from the sheets, I don't think you guys on the TV might have them, but we'll get them. Can we get those? They do have them? Okay. But you can see we're up. So last year, this time we had 46 enrolled students. This year we're at 115. So we're up 150%. You know, we can't, obviously, 150% would put us at a freshman class somewhere in the ballpark of, you know, 1,000, not even remotely doable, or 750. We can't do that. I mean, our cap is going to be somewhere around 325 to 400, given our space limitations and our growth limitations. Again, those are good problems that we share with Tallahassee. I've given them the enrollment sheets. And so we're in really good shape in enrollment. To be up 150% year over year right now is extraordinary and exciting. And our mix is getting, it's a good mix. The GPAs are up about only 0.1. Our ACT is up 1 point, and our SAT is up 0.30 points, 30 points. So it's getting, we're seeing an increase, but hopefully those numbers will get stronger too. And those are really super flexible. You know, if I gave you those numbers, you know, a week ago, it would have been different. But we keep track of those too, and we'll make sure that we continue to share those with you. Of course, the goal is to increase our enrollment, and at the same time now is to increase our scores, get our scores back up to, you know, hopefully ultimately historical new college highs, which is, I don't know that we'll ever get there. I think if you talk to some of our alumni, I want to say in the 70s, we had the 3rd highest entering scores in the country. We were tied with Yale and only behind like MIT and Cal Berkeley, I think, or something like that. Those are astounding scores, but hopefully I'll keep you posted on those, and at any point in time, you feel you want to get more information on that, just let us know, and we'll get it to you. Can I finish, Amy? And then the faculty, we talked about it a little bit. The Academic Affairs Committee, we probably have 30 to 40 open searches going on right now. It goes through, there's a whole collective bargaining faculty process where they do Zoom interviews, they invite people to campus, we do campus interviews. They recommend a certain number of faculty, we go through those. And I'd say right now we're on pace, I think, probably to, at the April 11th meeting, give you a report of all the faculty hires. We're probably somewhere, I would say, some of the searches are done, some offers have been accepted, but we'll have hopefully the full slate for you guys. And again, I can call any of you guys at any point in time and give you individual updates, but it's going very, very well, and we're very excited. The also came up in the Academic Affairs Committee was the mission statement. We sent out a mission statement campus-wide. People are able to email in suggestions and thoughts. We've had great suggestions and thoughts from students, faculty, outsiders, staff. So again, that'll be something that'll come before you guys probably in the April and May meeting for approval, and we'll continue down that process. You're going to hear from our Christy Fitzpatrick, who is the acting, sort of taken over the finances part, but I think with great help and input from some of our trustees, Trustee Keenan in particular, Trustee Reed, we've been going through trying to create a budget that is the most transparent in the history of New College. And what you have today that we'll go through is the most transparent, most open, most detailed budget ever presented at a trustee meeting at New College. And we're not even satisfied with that. Hopefully we can continue to get more and more detail. But you'll see we're getting in a really, really good spot in terms of having that full transparency and just knowing in every account, every aspect where we are to the penny, and which is very, very helpful. The overall picture, because we had a growth in enrollment, we are seeing about a boost of about $1 million in revenues. So that's a good sign with that growth. But of course, with that comes more demands on infrastructure and all of those things too. But I'll leave that to Trustee Cristaldi and Christy Fitzpatrick, because it's later on the budget. On legal issues, I tell you guys all the time, I mean, we've had whistleblower lawsuits, federal lawsuits, state lawsuits, employment lawsuits, random, we've had people try to steal our trademarks, lawsuits, we've had SACS investigations, we've had DOE inquiries, we've had, and I say SACS investigations, SACS inquiries, DOE inquiries, we've had BOG inquiries. The list is voluminous, but here we are 11 months later, and I'm happy to say that some of them are starting to either get dropped or get dismissed, or we win them outright. But we have not lost a single case. We're being very judicious and following the law to a T, and I'll keep you posted on those. One of them that, and I'll let our general counsel get into the specifics, but we were sued over a case that was 3 or 4 years old. It was a horrible rape case, but we've settled that case, and the behaviors and the liability that took place has been corrected, and we will not, none of that takes place now or has taken place in the last 10 months. The also, we had a site that popped up and they were using our New College logo. That's all been hopefully finalized in the next 30 days, but includes everything from a letter of apology. They're paying our attorney's fees and costs, and they've turned over all of those domains to us in full apology. So those things are starting to play itself out, and but just wanted to let you guys know that there's a lot that has gone on, and a shout out to our general counsel and shout out to our Vice President of Legal Affairs. I mean, we go through everything in great detail to make sure that we are fully compliant with the law. The last thing I do want to say, because I think because of some of the juxtapositions that have happened in the last 2 weeks since our Academic Affairs Committee, I have gotten some texts and emails from faculty members that are concerned. This is the time period where the 7 applicants, 5 of which were up last year for early tenure, are back up before you guys for tenure. the CBA says that we would bring it up in the February meeting or absolutely have to bring it up at our next scheduled meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is April. It was going to be in March and an April meeting, but instead of doing that, we're trying to have less meetings and just be more efficient. So it's the April 11th meeting that those tenure applications will come up. And if you work backwards, it gives us actually plenty of time for you guys to go through and review those applications. But that would be a vote at the trustees at April 11th. Before that, we would have a academic affairs committee. We'll have my recommendation. We'll have an opportunity for the tenured faculty to respond to the recommendations. And you guys will have plenty of time to go through those in detail for the vote that would come up April 11th. But I just wanted to reassure some of the faculty had thought that the moving of the date or some of these changes was something, for lack of a better word, nefarious, and it's not at all. All of that will take place at the April 11th meeting, and rest assured, we will follow that process and do it correctly and with full transparency and afford all rights necessary. So that's basically the update, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, President Corcoran. While you were speaking, Trustee Reed was raising her hand, and now Trustee Keenan has raised her hand, so we'll take them in order because Trustee Reed was first.
So I'm glad that you've given us some encouraging data about applications for next year. You're up from last year. I'm wondering actually what the comparison would be from the year before, because last year was, of course, sort of a challenging year. And I'm also wondering if you or someone else in the administration could share with this board the information about the spring transfers. Because while you were able to bring in 60 transfer students in the spring, which is really good, I am concerned about two things. One, a large number of those recruits were for the baseball team, which was already over-enrolled. And also, I note that the average SAT for the students between last year and this year for the spring transfers dropped by 150 points. Now, not all students take the SAT. There's other measures. And I'm certainly not going to say that the SAT is the only thing that measures the potential of a student for success. But 150 points is significant. It brings the average SAT down to a little over 1,000 points, I think 1,077. So I'm wondering if you can talk about that, because numbers are one thing, and that's encouraging, but when we look at the quality indicators, that's really concerning.
The first part of your question regarding the year over year, so last year would have been up year over the previous year. We had the record amount in 63 years. So if you go back 2 years. But at this time of the year. At this time of the year, yes, we are up. And so the second part of your question, I could have maybe Dean Rancourt or our athletic director can get into some of the specifics. But those are spring admits. And yeah, our numbers, Dr. Reed, are down with our spring admits. But
relative to last year's spring admits.
Yeah. The sheet's right before you. I gave everybody the sheet, so it's in your packet if you want to go through the sheet.
Not sure I got 3 copies of this year's and.
It's in your packet.
Spring. I don't know that I got that one.
It's in there.
Okay.
And I've given it to everybody else.
Yeah, this is. The dean had shared this information with me at your request a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but then I put it in everyone's packet for
Okay.
today. So what we're doing with the spring admits, and we can get into the mix of what they are. But generally, if you go to any of the state university systems, some of those kids that we're letting in are and that's why they do it, because it doesn't account to their metrics. So it doesn't count to their overall GPAs or SATs. So they admit, especially when it comes to athletes, they'll admit some of them in the spring. So we've done some of that with this spring admission, and it gives them a ramp up to see if they're capable of doing the work at here. Most of those are transfer students, so it's not, those are more based on the GPA because they've already been in a college and shown that they can do college level work, so it's not the same as a first time in college admit. But yes, we're cognizant of the numbers, and we're going to, as I've said before, if you look at our fall admits, we're up on basically GPA, SAT, and ACT. And it's 100% of a focus is to try to continue to grow that enrollment, but increase the numbers of the scores too. I don't know if you, I mean, I think a lot of you remember last year what happened was, as we were hiring the coaches in the spring, we hired the athletic director, and then he had to hire coaches. So you're talking, we were hiring coaches in May and June to field club teams for the NAIA for this fall. I mean, maybe the team didn't start the fall, but the student had to be enrolled in the fall. And so some of our female sports, some of those guys didn't, I think we had, I don't know, I'm going to say 9 basketball players. And you normally want to have like 20 or 25. So we've gotten some more basketball players. And our soccer team, some of our soccer teams, we recruited a lot of soccer players in that spring class, and and additional softball players for the spring class. So a lot of that was because we were trying to play catch up in the spring with admits that we couldn't get into school in the fall, but we still had to field these teams and have a decent quantity of players. And it gives us the entire semester with our faculty and with our academic mentors to see if we can get these students to be able to live up to the new college system. But I think, to your point, what you'll see in that sheet also is dramatic increase in Black students, dramatic increase in Hispanic students, dramatic increase in out-of-state students.
Dramatic increase in male students. Of the recruits, 1/3 were female and 2/3 were male.
I think I'd have to check on the exact numbers,
18
though.
18 and 44.
Yeah, we're getting a better balance of male and female students. I think nationwide the average is somewhere around 57 and change. We were at 70-something and change, so I think our balance is
69. We had 69% female
No,
students.
we were 71% at one point,
Okay.
72%. I can get those numbers for you. But anyway, I'm just saying our gender mix is much more diverse and more emblematic of the nationwide averages in universities.
Trustee Keenan, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
So I had a lot of people talk to me about the master plan, but more talked about the provost. And so the question is, you hired a new provost, but the faculty handbook says that it has to be a faculty member. So how are you allowed to break that rule?
I can let our general counsel discuss that. It's complete within the confines of the authority that the trustees have in board governance that delegated to the president to make that decision, which is in the statutory language that allows me to do that. But I could allow the general counsel to answer that for you if you'd like.
Sure.
Yes, so with Senate Bill
And can I just be clear? It's, as it was previously, it is an interim provost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's makes a difference generally, but under SB 266, the statute now expressly gives the ultimate authority on these hires to the president of the institution. Regardless, it would preempt the handbook in this case.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up, so we're going to.
Sorry, Madam Chair. If I could just make one
Trustee
comment too.
Cristaldi.
I just wanted to speak to the average SAT score because, and this may not be germane to today, but it's something that's on my mind. When I came to New College in 1989, this was not a place that administered time standardized tests. It was a place that valued a student's ability to write, valued a student's ability to do essays and papers, and chose students based on talent, based on a variety of factors, not standardized testing. And I know within our state university system in Florida, as it's grown, it's become a benchmark to look at average SAT scores of incoming freshmen, for instance. But I would just encourage all of my fellow trustees and the administration to not lose sight of the fact that it's okay to deviate from that, in my perspective, if we're looking for talented individuals who have the capacity to kind of change the world. And I, for one, am not a huge proponent of time standardized tests and the scores.
Thank you, Trustee Cristaldi. Seeing no other comments.
I have one more question just to follow up. And, as I said, when I raised the question about the SAT scores, I don't believe that they're the only
or the best indicator of potential for success. But one of the people speaking at the beginning said, and I'd like confirmation of this, that an essay is no longer a requirement for admission, for the admissions application?
We use the general application. What's the formal title?
Common App.
Common App. We use the Common App, and an essay is a part of the Common App. I don't know where that came from, Amy. We use the Common App. An essay is a part of the Common App.
Okay.
You'll hear a lot of comments that just are far from the truth.
Thank you. All right.
Madam Chairman?
Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to make a brief comment. I was just down on the campus last week and went around and saw all the improvements. And I would just encourage all of us to keep all of this in perspective. I'm very concerned and attuned to all the small changes and the trends and the numbers, and including SAT scores. These are all important. But let's not miss the forest for the trees. I mean, there are some significant changes going on at New College. We're dedicated to restoring this college and rebuilding it. And let's keep in mind, Rome wasn't built in a day, and this isn't going to happen in a day either. The trends, the numbers, the movement is all going in the right direction. And I think we should not miss that fact and get caught up in smaller but important things that detract from seeing the overall matter that is our larger responsibility.
Thank you. Anybody else out there on the board wish to comment? Okay, we're going to move on now. I'm going to recognize Bill Galvano, General Counsel, for more detailed legal updates for us. Mr. Galvano?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I have updates on two cases. One I need to share with you by law. And then Mr. Brickhouse had some stats on some of the improvements that are being made in Title IX. If you all recall, and the President alluded to it in his remarks, we were involved in a suit. It was both a negligence suit and a Title IX suit. The heading of plaintiff is referred to as Jane Doe, who was suing the New College Board of Trustees for an incident that occurred in 2017. The incident allegedly arose after an event took place called the Tour de Francia, or Franzia, and it was a bike race or track where boxes of wine were placed on different points in campus and then some off campus. And after making these rounds and then convening on the bay, the allegations were that there was more drinking, and eventually a young lady was allegedly drugged and then ended up being allegedly sexually battered in a dorm. The negligence part of the claim was based on the argument that there was a course of conduct occurring on campus that made this type of incident foreseeable. The Title IX claim arose based on the reporting of this incident, which occurred after the incident. It was reported, I guess, in October, and there were a series of allegations for Title IX violations and inaction by the administration. So this case was referred to risk management at the State Department of Financial Services, which through counsel recently, John Durr, was defending. We went to mediation last week on February the 14th and resolved the case for $1.125 million to be awarded to Jane Doe. This money is paid through the state, so they are the ones who made the ultimate decision, but as the defendant, institution, and Board of Trustees, the law requires that you are given notice that this payment is being made based on the resolution of that matter. The Florida House and the Florida Senate will also be notified. But this should resolve this Title IX case in its entirety. The other, any questions? Yeah. Okay. The other report I have for you is I had mentioned at our last meeting that we were being sued by NCF Freedom, faculty and students, to enjoin the enforcement and to have declared unconstitutional the curriculum aspects of the Senate Bill 266. We did go to a federal hearing on the injunction. We were successful in defending the injunction. The grounds were unconstitutionality, vagueness, overbreadth. We went on the basis of standing and that there was not a likelihood that the plaintiffs would prevail on the merits. Motions to dismiss were filed after that. As those motions were pending, the plaintiffs have voluntarily dismissed the suit. So that one has been resolved as well. The two others, quickly, the car museum, that's resolved. The settlement agreements have been entered into. We have money in escrow. Attorney's fees are being paid to the college for that, and that property will be vacated on March 15th. And then the president also had mentioned the intellectual property infringement by Bard College. That is also on the cusp of being resolved. The property has been returned. They've committed to pay your fees and cost and to present a letter of apology. And so if you'd recognize Mr. Brickhouse, he was just going to share some
Yes,
stats.
thank you.
Unless there are questions on those last two.
No, thank you. Mr. Brickhouse? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Several of the trustees had asked for an update on our Title IX stats, and so I just wanted to prepare and provide a brief comparative analysis of last academic year versus this academic year. And first, thank you very much to Vice President Jacks and our Student Conduct Officer, Dr. Mack. Dr. Mack and Dr. Jacks, very helpful in putting this together. As you'll see in the bottom of this report, academic year 22-23, we had 43 total reports in Title IX versus this year to date is 13, a dramatic reduction in those. Formal complaints, likewise, 3 in the last academic year. Formal complaints this year, 0. And we provide a breakdown by type and category in the bar graph. So if there's any questions, happy to stand to answer them.
Trustee Keenan?
I had a comment to clarify some of this data if I know you asked for questions.
Of Mr. Brickhouse?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I have a comment about this, if I may.
Yes, but he's here to answer any questions you have.
Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify that I don't think there's a way these numbers could be accurate, because the situation last year is that we had a Title IX coordinator that was on campus, had a well-established relationship and presence on campus. This past year, there was a period of time where our title coordinator was in Texas, technically, and didn't even have access to the Title IX email, so if things were reported, there was a big delay in whether or not they got a response. And then also, I think our Title IX coordinator has changed from that to you at some point during this year, all while there's being almost no announcement to the students about that. So we have a real reporting issue, but we're trying to resolve it on student government.
Stop. This is a meeting.
So
Mr. Brickhouse.
a few things, Chair, I'd just like to address. We have a deputy, outside deputy Title IX coordinator that has been phenomenal. She meets with the student affairs staff, I would say, on a weekly basis to investigate, and we take all complaints and allegations of Title IX issues extremely seriously. We had some issues in terms of updating the website that had been resolved and restoring the Title IX email. Everyone knew our prior Title IX coordinator who left to go to a closer university to her home. But there was a smooth transition. She briefed Alicia Carter-Harris as our deputy. There was a transition period with our former Title IX coordinator and everything. There was no loss of access and there was no denial of rights. And she concluded all the investigations, which were minimal at that time. But there's no incident that I've been made aware of where we have not taken immediate action on Title IX issues during the past 11 months.
Thank you,
If
Mr.
you're aware of any, please bring them to my attention immediately.
Thank you.
Trustee Reed?
I'd just like to confirm, last summer we had a meeting, I believe it was the academic, or no, maybe it was the audit committee meeting, where one of the things that was discussed was the outside consultant's Title IX report from last year, which said, amongst other things, that Title IX should not be placed under legal. And if you look at the way Title IX is structured at other members of the SUS, there's only one other institution that does place Title IX under legal. So I'm wondering if you can explain to me why you think that that is an appropriate thing here. I'm concerned about the size, right, which means that there is not much space for freedom on the part of the person who is receiving reports and helping to manage investigations. In an office the size of yours, I'm concerned about a person being in Texas and being our point person for this. You know that in Title IX investigations, being able to talk to somebody actually really matters. So can you explain why you think it's appropriate to have Title IX under legal? And perhaps maybe just give me some reassurance that this is a temporary solution and not one you intend to have going forward.
Can I maybe interject before we tackle that? Is that all right, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to just point out the kind of blunt facts once again. From what I understand, we've had a rapidly decreasing number of complaints, especially of sexual assault and sexual harassment, since the changeover administration. We had $1 million settlement, perhaps due to alleged incidents that occurred under the previous arrangement. And from what I remember in my first meetings on campus, if you look at back historically over, say, the past 5 years, and I hope if we have this data available, we can confirm, this would represent a large decrease. And so I would just encourage Trustee Reed to take some good news when there's good news. The fact of the matter, and Trustee Reed has been associated with the university for a long time, she would know, over the last 5 years, if we are seeing now a sudden decrease in these incidents, that's good. It means the system is working. It means the culture is improving. And I just find these constant complaints in the face of good news to just be a bad approach for the board. And I would just, I would again encourage Trustee Reed, if she has positive, constructive solutions, those are welcomed. But it seems like every agenda item is just nitpicking, even if the news is good. And perhaps we should reflect on why the culture, when she was, for example, the leader of the gender studies program, seemed to create many more of these incidents. I think some self-reflection would be better than petty criticism.
Thank you, Trustee Rufo.
No. Right now, I would like actually
I'm going to
call.
have you removed. Take
We
her
need
out.
to have something
Goodbye.
that puts some civil discourse in this. This is inappropriate.
Trustee Reed, you're going to leave. Take her out, please. Mr. Brickhouse,
this is
can
inappropriate.
you answer the question?
It is inappropriate to
I
have
the
that
floor,
sort of
Trustee
hectoring
Reed.
from Mr. Rufo.
Trustee
Again.
Reed, you asked a question of David Brickhouse, and he's going to answer the question that you asked.
Trustee Reed, I'm going to try to remember all of the points of your question, so if I forget anything, please do remind me.
2 points.
I don't.
Why it's in legal.
He has the floor.
And whether or not you intend to shift it from that. 2 points.
So I don't believe that your portrayal of that report is accurate. In my office is one of the 4 places the recommendation said it could go. The reason that report recommended moving it away from student affairs, where the Title IX office had previously been housed, was because Title IX is much broader than just students. It applies to faculty and staff.
Yep.
So having it in student affairs becomes problematic,
Yep.
and it was advised to us, which I agree with. It was not best practice to limit it. Same thing with HR. It becomes problematic to have things that are more isolated to just faculty and staff and just students. So that was based off the recommendation of an outside consultant, Title IX expert. To your point, when I came in and started overseeing the Title IX office, I had a Title IX coordinator who had 5 or 6 supervisors in the last 2 years. So bringing stability
Yep.
and compliance and a culture of compliance was the first priority of mine coming into that office. And I think that this documents exactly that we are enforcing the law, we're enforcing our regulations, and we take these matters extremely seriously. That cannot be said of prior administrations, and we've taken great efforts to make sure that that is no longer the case.
Thank you. Trustee Bauerlein?
Just to assure us, Mr. Brickhouse, that people who come forward with complaints do have the full opportunity of talking, of a trusting situation.
Absolutely,
Which is
Trustee
essential.
Bauerlein. That's why Alicia Carter-Harris, the Deputy Title IX Coordinator, works extremely closely with Dr. Mack and with Dr. Jacks, so we have an on-campus presence, and they work in tandem to ensure that the appropriate approach is taken based off the situation that presents. So who are they most comfortable in talking with? Are they more comfortable talking virtually or in person? We take all those things into account to make sure that we handle these things in an appropriate manner.
Thank you. All right, Trustee Cristaldi?
Thank you, sir. If I could, first, let me just say thank you for your service in this regard. Having a safe, secure campus and a campus where these issues could come to light and be addressed is critical. We don't have, frequently, we don't have a lot of unanimity among our Board of Trustees, but I think we would all agree on those points that it is of paramount concern of us to making sure that these issues are alleviated in the first instance, and when they do happen, that they're dealt with appropriately. So thank you for what you're doing. I just had a few quick questions. Is the data based on allegations that were received, or is it based on substantiated claims?
And so that's what the two numbers it sets at the bottom. So we track the total reports regardless of the investigation and the underlying facts. That's what those numbers are, 13 versus the 43. The formal complaints are those that have gone through an investigation and you have a person who wants to press a formal charge. And so that's been reduced and was 3 last year.
So anyone who makes a complaint at all would end up
We
in
track it, correct.
13 and 43. And do you feel satisfied that there's open channels for folks to make complaints?
I think there's always ways that we can do things better, and I welcome any input or suggestions from any member of the community that would go to that goal. I think there's always things that we can do better, and we're constantly looking at what other institutions are doing to see how we can adopt best practices.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add, Trustee, and with great input from Trustee Keenan, one of the first meetings I had with her is what do we need to upgrade? I think we had 32 blue phones on campus, and some were, I don't even want to say the number, but maybe 10 worked. All the blue phones were fixed over the summer. We had cameras in certain spots because there is, because the gas station, there is like a homeless population. The cameras were all broken. All the cameras have been fixed and replaced. So, I mean, it just came out, an exhaustive study just came out that 2 of the things that parents are looking for their students when they're going to college, the top 2 things were obviously, prestige and quality education, the quality. Number 2 was not even close, was safety. And so we continue to make massive investments in campus safety.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any trustees on Zoom have any questions? Otherwise, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Maybe more like a 7 to 10-minute break. Thank you. We come back at 4:30, 8 minutes. Hear me? Hello? There we go.
Depends on how the rest of this meeting goes.
Everybody, please take your seats. Thank you. All right. I'd like to recognize Bill Galvano, General Counsel, to cover the Sarasota Manatee Airport Authority Agreement. This was all circulated to the trustees and was promulgated in our
Yes.
package.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Trustees, where we are in the process is you have a draft agreement before you containing the initial terms that you all have agreed to or approved at the last meeting. This agreement the draft is approved by airport leadership, but not the entire authority. It is pending review by the Florida Aviation Authority. And after we take action on it, this still goes to the Division of State Lands, Bureau of Real Estate for further review. At this point, Mr. Elliott, Kyle Elliott, who is attorney for the airport, myself have reviewed it. It's also gone to the State University System General Counsel for review and comment, and we are keeping the process moving. Essentially, it's as was described prior, the 30 acres, the parcel north of Spats would ultimately be retained by the airport. The purchase price for this property is $11.5 million. Once this agreement becomes effective, there's a 90-day inspection for test, title review, et cetera, to make sure we're on the right track. After that inspection period, there's 60 days before it would close. So this is not something that's getting ready to close next week, but we've made significant progress. You'll see as part of the agreement, there are two easements, one for the college to ensure that it will always have access along the area that's now Spats and a swath to the south thereof. And then there's an navigation easement that the airport will enjoy. Under the current lease, everything that is conducted on campus has to be done so in compliance with Florida, with the FAA regulations, federal. And this navigation easement is a compliance document with the FAA. So the action that would be taken today is for this board to approve this draft, and then it would be transmitted as approved. They already have it to the Division of State Lands.
Can I have a motion, please, to approve the agreement as tendered to us?
Move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Trustee Reed?
I'm sorry to be the one who's always asking
Okay,
questions.
But direct it to Mr. Galvano. Thank you.
I do want to say one thing. I mean, this, reaching an agreement with the airport to secure these lands is really important for the long-term viability of the college, and I'm glad that there is progress on this. But last night, there was a report on WUSF about a whistleblower's complaint from the airport questioning the terms of this sale. And as I understand it, and I heard this while I was driving, so I don't have all the details, but as I understand it, a whistleblower from the airport thinks that we're getting too sweet of a deal and not paying enough for the land. And so they're asking for reconsideration of it. There was a quote from Mr. Piccolo defending the deal. But am I correct in understanding that once the different agencies, New College, the airport, and you talked about other state agencies have approved it, it also has to go to the FAA, the federal agency, for approval, and that they may decide that the terms of the agreement, that we're not paying fair market value? Is that a possibility here?
It is being reviewed by the FAA. It will also ultimately have to be signed off on by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Trust for Internal Lands. This is a significant purchase. As an attorney for New College, I love the fact that we're getting a great deal and a well-negotiated deal. And so That doesn't bother me. But to your point, independent agencies, federal and state, are reviewing this agreement.
Madam Chair, might I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I
trustee.
add before your question?
Yes, sir.
Trustee? The other thing too is the airport, I think in my short time here, that what has been done at the Sarasota Airport and the leadership over there has been nothing shy of fantastic. And the conversations that have taken place have existed with the FAA and other people for years and years and years. And even before we even got close, and there were just loose discussions about what pieces could be acquired, what pieces could be given to the school. Those conversations are ongoing, I know, on the airport's part, just like our own conversations are ongoing with the legislative component. Anybody can file a whistleblower law complaint, but I think that they've done their due diligence, and I think it's a win-win for not just the airport, but ourselves, but also the community. And I think anybody looking at it would say the same.
Thank you. Trustee Cristaldi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Galvano, you may not know the answer to this question, but I suspect the FAA's interest is in flight patterns and safety around the airport, but did they have the ability to approve the sale price of land that's owned by a special taxing district in Florida?
And you're right, I've not looked at their complete jurisdiction, but I would assume that they are, as the federal regulatory body of airports, that they are going to look at all aspects of it before the airport director can go to his authority and go before his board and say this agreement should be approved.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Anybody on the Zoom? We had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor of approving the contract with the Sarasota Manatee Airport Authority, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? No? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Again, Council Bill Galvano, I'm passing the mic to you to discuss the 9-acre Manatee County parcel contract.
Yes, and I'll take any questions, but I'll be brief. I think you all are very familiar with this one. On the 13th of February, Manatee County Commission voted to approve the donation agreement in your packet and the exhibit to that donation agreement, which is a use agreement to donate to New College of Florida the approximately 9 acres just north of the Crosley estate. The county was unanimous in its vote. The use agreement that goes along with this deal provides that there will be a green space along the water. That green space, however, will be able to be used for recreation, trails, other types of activities, and won't prohibit docks if we decide to do that. They're properly permitted. It also provides that we'll secure the southern border, and if we build on the property, we'll have a security on the northern, but we'll work with the county to connect the walking trail from the southern property, Crosley, across to the north. We can use it, the college can use it for any purpose in furthering its educational goals. The architectural style needs to be in reasonable consistency with what's out there, and there's a height limitation of 4 stories. County would like notice if there's going to be a big concert or theater, noisy type of activity, so that if they're hosting a wedding or a party at the Crosley, there's a coordination, and then any fireworks, pyrotechnics, those type of things have to be noticed. We have a 90-day inspection period, but we can close sooner than those 90 days. They're providing all the backup materials on the property, environmentals, surveys, et cetera. And it's this, if I say so myself, this is another very, very good positive deal for the school, and the county's been great in wanting to partner with us in this regard. If we don't use it for a new college purpose, then they have retained a right of first refusal to buy it back. If we're not going to use it, we offer it back, but it's not a reverter, which is also positive. So the action here is to approve the donation agreement, which carries with it the use agreement as an exhibit.
So I'm asking for a motion to approve the, give me the sequence of the documents,
If you move to approve the donation agreement, you will have covered it all.
I move to approve the donation agreement with Manatee County for the 9-acre Manatee County parcel.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Is there any downside to this?
It's a really sweet deal.
You may have to mow it.
Free is good.
Well done.
Okay, so can I see a show of hands who votes in favor of this? Aye. Everybody?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Anybody opposed? No? All right, motion carries. So thank you very much, Counselor, for working on these contracts, and I know this has been an arduous task. Next up is the new academic degree program at New College. It's the Masters in Marine Mammal Science. I am looking for Brad Thiessen, Vice Provost, and Heidi Harley to come up to the podium and give us an overview of the new academic degree program. Please. You two can toss a coin. Who goes first?
I have a PowerPoint if you
Oh, you
want to
do.
bring it
Thank
up.
you, Dr. Harley.
Do you want to?
Okay. Can you talk a little more into the microphone?
I can totally talk into the mic.
That's better. Thank you.
You bet.
Ready?
Great. And I think there's a PowerPoint coming. So I am Heidi Harley. I'm talking about the master's program. I'm actually representing what has become a dream team at New College, I should say. I've been here since the 90s. I'm a professor. I'm in psychology. I'm a cognitive psychologist, but I'm actually weird because I study thinking, which is normal, sort of, but I study thinking in other animals, and I study thinking in dolphins. So I say, how do they use echolocation to recognize objects, and how do they recognize each other using their whistles and things like that. And so next, do I have the way of changing the slides? Next slide. If you look at New College and you think about the college, we have a really cool program in terms of contracts and evaluations that really empowers students. And it would be sort of wonderful if we could have a specialty program that was globally recognized. And if you look at the college, one of the things you notice is how beautiful it is and how the bay is part of what makes it gorgeous. So next slide. So if you look a little bit harder at the bay, you're going to see dolphins. In fact, you're going to see the longest studied population of wild dolphins in the world. 6 generations, more than 50 years. So that's something that's unique, and people come from all over the world to study these dolphins. Next slide. And as it turns out, happily, New College has a remarkable strength in faculty that study marine mammals. We have 4 at a tiny, tiny little college, which really stands out. And all of us are very engaged in what we do. And we live in Florida, so Florida is also really hot for marine mammals. We have these dolphins that have been studied for a long time. We, of course, have more Florida manatees than any other state, shockingly enough. Expertise in other areas in the universities. We have more than 50 zoos and aquarias, and we have all kinds of agencies that engage in marine work. Next slide. So that also means that we can have amazing collaborators. They come from all over the world, and so already we work with Buddy Powell, who's globally known for his work with manatees, Randy Wells, who's globally known for his work with dolphins, St. Andrews University in Scotland, Woods Hole, University of Michigan, so we're already doing all of these things. So we have really remarkable opportunities. Next slide. To provide what's really unusual, which is not just knowing just about the genome of a species or just about their cognition, but actually we can offer something that includes lab and field, so we can know about their brains. Peter Cook is here. You can see a picture of him there. We can work with animals in facilities and outside of facilities. That gives us a remarkable and unique ability to understand more about marine mammals. Next slide. And so the way we're thinking about the program is that it has 5 features: really strong science. It's interdisciplinary, as I suggested, has hands-on skills, so you learn how to drive a boat, you learn how to train an animal. We specialize in lab, field, and analytics, so we do acoustics, we do a lot of data analysis, as you would think, and communication across audiences, because we're working in public facilities, so we need to be able to tell other people what we're doing. The structure is a 2-year thesis-oriented program, so it works really well at the college, with core courses and then tracks, because you'll end up specializing in different areas, of course. We think we can offer short courses using these, taking advantage of these collaborators who come from around the world, so those could be available for undergraduates and graduate students, including students that aren't just New College students. And we have lots of opportunities for them, research assistantships and funding across the board. We've already worked on state funding. You have helped us with that. Thank you. Fundraising, and we already have good grants, some national and international grants. Next slide. So in terms of admissions, we want to draw from New College students. There are 10,000 potential students in the SUS system here alone in the areas that we'll be covering. I think national recruitment will actually be pretty good, because the next place you would go would be in Scotland. That's a 1-year program, and it's expensive, and you don't get as much hands-on work. And because we're already a national, globally recognized marine mammal destination, we'll bring in people because they'll learn about us through that. These students that you see here are just a handful of the students that we've already worked with who've gone on to do really interesting things. A lot of them went to graduate school. I think they would come here if they could, and they're working in all of these areas already. So I think we can really add value for our students. Next slide. Here's where we are. It actually started, you can't see it well, in 2011, believe it or not, and but ramped up this past year in May. We talked to the provost and the president, who were supportive. Then y'all helped us support us for a legislative budget request. It went to the Boggs Committee of Academic Vice Presidents, who'd had no concerns about the program. Then we've had numerous discussions with the faculty in different venues, and we've taken a lot of their suggestions, which have been very helpful, to produce a report that we turned into a proposal to the accreditation to SACS in December, and also a proposal for the BOG that you have been seeing that's gone to the BOG staff. So we're now using that information to turn it into the BOG soon, and SACS, and then you're here today before that. What we're aiming for, we're on a fast timeline. I know you're shocked. Then August, we want about 10 students to come in. We can't advertise for them right now because we don't actually have the program yet, but we've already identified a bunch of students, and there you see 3 pictures of 3 of them. One of them's already a professional. One of them would be our first 3-2 student, so that means an undergraduate who would still be an undergraduate when she started in the program next year, and one of them is a recent alum. But then we've also have other professionals and other kinds of people that we're talking to. And the next slide, next slide. What we really think this will bring to New College is not just great marine mammal science, which we all actually love, but also I think it should be really attractive to people who might want to come to New College. So 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. It's a world-class program on Sarasota Bay with marine mammals. So I think that that's attractive to 16 and 17-year-olds, even if what they really want to do, is chemistry or anthropology or French. They'll come here because they think it's fun, and then they'll find out what they want to do with their lives.
Thank you, Dr. Harley. Your enthusiasm is contagious. This looks absolutely fabulous. Vice Provost Thiessen, your turn.
Yeah, I don't have much interesting to say, but I'll go through the boring things quickly. So the proposal in front of you has basic information such as enrollment projections, a budget, alignment with New College and state goals and strategic plans, information on workforce outcomes, how it aligns with the mission, and admissions requirements and curriculum. So if approved by this board, it will go to the Board of Governors for approval. Again, we're working with BOG staff right now, gathering feedback, making some slight edits to the proposal, cleaning things up. Once we get BOG approval, hopefully in March or June, we'd go back to SACS, get final approval with that, and we could start the program this fall. it is a program that will draw international attention to New College. So I strongly believe we should start this program.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the new academic degree program at New College, the Masters in Marine Mammal Science, please?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Second?
Second.
Trustee Bauerlein. Okay, we have any discussion, questions, comments? Yes, Trustee Reed, you're recognized. Thank you.
So I want to thank Heidi for giving us this presentation, and I do agree that this is something that people will be very excited about. Current students, future students, parents, those of us who live in the area. I do have two sorts of areas of concern, and one is questions for you, and then the other is more for us as a board in terms of logistics. So there's a certain inconsistency in the report, and maybe this is just something that you're going to clean up in the language, but I'd like some clarity, because I know that this is an area of real concern for faculty, about what the teaching responsibility is going to be. In different iterations of this, and actually in the current version we have, it says that there will be a graduate-only faculty. And I believe from other parts of the report that is not actually the case. But I know that there are still concerns from other faculty about the implication of losing teachers from our undergraduate program. So if you can speak to that for a moment, and then I have a question about logistics.
Yeah. So at first we thought it would be 100% graduate faculty. Then we actually had all these discussions with faculty, and we recognized that we actually always intended to include undergraduates, but we weren't sure exactly how much we could do at the beginning. However, already we have a student who's an undergrad who's going to be in a 3-2, like that. She's amazing. And so, and we always thought we would have undergraduates doing ISPs and some undergraduates in our classes, our actual classes. And then we intend to have these short courses that we also think undergraduates would be part of. We assumed that they would actually be interns with us some of the time. So there's actually a lot of room for undergraduate participation, but we're not expecting to teach a pure undergraduate class.
So, I mean, okay. I was hoping you would say something different, because that is really a loss, right? The neuroscience program has been totally decimated this past year. You have always been a popular and effective teacher, so to lose you for undergraduates, that's a big loss. Athena has been coordinating one of the programs for is it the QEP? I get lost in
Yes,
all the
no,
things,
you're right. Well,
so we have 3 faculty that we're losing, and that's, you can't be replaced.
And Peter Cook. So
No, I know.
Yeah, and actually I haven't.
I was thinking of him for neuroscience.
These people, man, they are a dream team. Like, I recognize it. Before I was doing these Sachs and Bog things, I already thought they were great, but after doing this, I know they're amazing. However, our understanding is that we will be replaced, and we're actually helping with that. And we, including, I tracked some of those people to bring them here, and I continue to track people to bring here. So, so what we're hoping is that we're expecting that those lines are just going to be replaced in psychology and biology, and that we will collaborate with people. And you are right in the sense that I sort of feel like I'm a jack of all trades, because I participate in psychology, biopsychology, environmental studies, animal well-being, and
You're the director of environmental
neuroscience. Yes, so I do a lot. But I think I can bring those things to this program and help other people. And I obviously have an overcommitment problem, but I will continue to overcommit.
Okay.
Any student who comes to my office, I've never said no, actually.
Yeah.
So.
We know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would still, I know that faculty in programs in the social sciences and in the natural sciences are really concerned about what the loss of these tenure lines is going to mean for the programs. Because you have, you're a senior faculty member. I believe Peter Cook has tenure. I'm not sure about Athena, right? So, but people who have been effective teachers here for a while, and that's a real loss. And recruiting somebody else is not going to replace that. And creating this structure also presents challenges in terms of the location of the program, right? For the data science program, the faculty in data science all taught half-time in the undergraduate program. And so they all had a home, a divisional home. And by creating this as a supra-divisional program, that's an added complexity, and it's going to change teaching assignments. I mean, if you have 10 students, I'm not sure how you're calculating, if the 3 of you were there, that's 6 courses in the fall. That's not many students in a lot of classes, right? So I think some of those things need to be addressed with real attention to the concerns of your colleagues.
Yeah, and we absolutely will. One thing that I keep thinking about, though, is all the people that we're actually bringing with us. So a more formal interaction with SDRP, these people who come from around the world, who helped, those students that I showed up there, Josh Abbott, who ended up going to Cambridge and then to UC Berkeley for his PhD, all these, Wendy Fellner, who's now at Scotland for her PhD, those are our connections making that happen. So I think we also will have these sort of remarkable opportunities. And again, talk about Dream Team right now, the students who want to come are already amazing. So it would be like having Grace teach other people. When we have professionals coming in who have this array, like I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to help do this and that. And I'm like, oh wait, no, these people are going to help us do this and that because they're amazing. So I think that our students are going to actually get these people too. So I think, and of course I'll help mentor any students that we bring. I mean, the faculty that they're all the age of my, Athena was my student. So of course help mentor those faculty.
So then my other question
Madam
is actually...
Who, I can't see who's raising their...
I said I had 2 points.
Yes, hang on. Trustee Patterson, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to congratulate the staff. My name is Don Patterson. I live on Sarasota Bay, 3rd generation Floridian, and super excited about this program. As Ms. Harley mentioned, the universities, or the college has been trying to work on this since 2011, and what President Corcoran's accomplished in just a number of months to get this thing this far, and to conclude it with the opportunity to have this class start in the fall. Sarasota needs it, Florida needs it, the world needs it. This program is amazing, as was outlined in Ms. Hardy's presentation. Nothing in the United States of America matches this program, and it's going to be a great attraction for the college. We have talked hours about attracting the greatest and brightest students. This college program is going to attract the brightest and most talented marine biologists around the country. They're going to be, I know I've already heard they're very attracted to this program. So the staffing issue is total minutia, given what's been accomplished by the staff. So I appreciate that we're down in the weeds about how many headcounts we have that are capable of teaching this program. We're not taking into account the attraction of the college and the talent of the staff under President Corcoran. Dozens and just a number of people are going to want to join this program. They're going to dwarf the amount of internal resources that we're debating right now. So I'd like to call the question, move forward and get this program advanced.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Don.
If you guys are okay, Dr. Reed had one follow-up question, I think, for us. If we could address that question, then call the question, that would be great.
Thank you. My basic concern
That's a question. You said we would not question.
So my question is, why was this board not given any time to actually review this proposal? So when we were sent the initial agenda for this committee, for this Board of Trustees meeting on February 15th, there was no mention of marine mammals. On 2016, it was added as an update to the...
Can we call the question? This is just, we discussed this in the committee meeting already. We've been over it ad nauseum. You've had ample amount of time to review it. since that committee meeting. Can we call the question, please?
So you,
Mr. Galvano, can you respond to that, please?
No,
You just
what I
wanna
said
finish.
is you were recognized and you should be able to finish.
I would appreciate it if Mr. Rufo would be
just
reminded
if you have a-
that he should not interrupt in such a rude way.
Trustee Reed, if you have a question,
So,
if you have a question.
so yes,
ask- but-
my
but
question is why we were not given any of this material
You
until.
have the material now, you've reviewed it, there's been 2 motions to
It
call the
was
question.
sent to us
and
on
actually,
February
I'm granting the-
22nd.
So is there?
Today is February 23rd. There was no real discussion of this at the committee meeting last week. It was just an informational point. And again, we had only received that information hours before that meeting. And so when we left that meeting, I did not anticipate that this would be on our agenda today. It was added to our agenda yesterday. And while I think that this is a really meritorious program, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dr. Harley and the team that she has assembled, I am concerned that this board is not being served well by having information presented to us at the last moment.
If I
Thank you.
could,
The question has been called.
just before we vote on the question to call, this was in our legislative budget request that was in the summer. The first draft of this proposal that has been edited, but the corpus of the draft, which is relatively unchanged, was September, October. That precipitated numerous conversations, as you heard from Dr. Harley, where she met with staff, she discussed staff, they went over those programs. We've been back and forth with SACS and with the BOG. This proposal before you, yes, what you have right now has some jot and tittle changes that we do when we meet with the BOG right before the meetings. Same thing we did right before the Academic Affairs Committee, where this proposal was brought up. But the corpus, everything that's in that proposal was available for discussion, and it was lengthy discussion. You've had these discussions, Dr. Reed, about concerns about the program for months. So you knew about the program. It's just not accurate to say that suddenly you got this proposal 5 minutes ago or a day before. This proposal has been in existence since the fall. But there's a motion before you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, the question has been called, and it's actually non-debatable with all due respect to
So
the
we take a-
dais.
So we take a vote.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of the new academic.
No, the motion to call.
the mo-
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're voting on the approval
Right.
of the degree program. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any
So aye.
opposed? Trustee Reed? Trustee Keenan? We good?
I didn't hear any opposition.
Having heard no actual opposition to the vote, the motion carries. Thank you so much, the two of you. Really appreciate it. And Dr. Harley, your enthusiasm is just showing. It's spectacular.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Thiessen?
And we will work, we will keep working with y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You don't get to leave. I'm calling on
I'll
you.
be more enthusiastic. I'll try. Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Thiessen, I'm calling on you to discuss the new College of Florida 2024-2025 undergraduate academic calendar.
Okay. Yeah, I can't be enthusiastic about that. So what you have in front of you right now is an undergraduate academic calendar for the next academic year. What I would like to do, though, so I'll give you the brief history. So this is a calendar originally drafted by the Office of the Provost in consultation with the Office of the Registrar. We then took it through the faculty process, through the Educational Policy Committee, up for a faculty vote last Wednesday, and an amended calendar was approved by the faculty that aligns with all the deadlines in the faculty handbook. We have to submit a calendar to the Board of Governors by March 1st. So I would suggest we pass this calendar. However, just to warn you, I plan on coming back to this board in a month, 2 months, with updated calendars for the next several years. We shouldn't be doing this every single year, kind of, last minute coming up with a calendar. So we'll come up with a 2 or 3 year calendar. We'll give you a graduate calendar. We'll clean up some deadlines to help student success. But for now, the calendar you have in front of you, it's up for approval. I hope you do approve it.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the New College of Florida 2024-2025 undergraduate academic calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Keenan. Okay, any discussion? Questions, comments? Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All on.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Calendar's been approved. Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. All right, I'm now going to, last but not least, turn the budget update discussion over to Vice Chair Ron Cristaldi. He is the Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees. He's also the Chair of the Finance and Administration Committee, and you know he's done a lot of work for this. So with that, Trustee Cristaldi, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if it's good to be at the end of the agenda or at the beginning of the agenda. I at the risk of prolonging the meeting just another 2 or 3 minutes, I wanted to recognize Mr. Chris Kinsley. Mr. Kinsley's announced his departure from our organization. I think he's going to be around at least till the end of our fiscal year on July 1, but I have had the pleasure to work with Mr. Kinsley for many years now, and I think I speak on behalf of the entire board. Mr. Kinsley, thank you for your tremendous service to this organization, and I've not met somebody who's a harder working individual whose heart is with this organization than you. So thank you, and I wanted to just publicly acknowledge all that you've done for us and wish you well after you leave, but we are going to extract as much as we can get out of you between now and July 1. If I could, Madam Chair, ask Ms. Fitzpatrick to approach the podium, and I'd like to ask her to give the budget update.
Thank you.
Good afternoon from a different perspective now. So I won't be too long with this. I just want to touch on a brief couple of things. I think the cover sheet that you all received in your packet a couple of days ago outlines a lot of the significant pieces of the budget. This is more detail than we've ever provided, I think, in the last couple of years to the Board of Trustees, and happy to provide more detail as needed. But so a couple of highlights just to reference. On the first sheet, you'll notice, which is a grand summary sheet, we have a total all-in budget with all of our funds at $119 million, with estimated expenditures meeting that budget. Couple of other highlights I want to mention as we're progressing through the year is we've had a conservative estimate of tuition and fees at the beginning of the year at $4 million. We're exceeding that by a little over $1 million, at a little over $5 million at this point in time, which is very exciting and obviously is due to our increased enrollment. That also, as you'll see as you're reviewing the documents, follows suit to all of our other auxiliaries, which are up right now. So our student services auxiliaries or student activity fee revenue is up in a little less than 16,000 over the previous year. That helps with, I know Grace appreciates that, I'm sure. Housing fee revenues are up, food services revenues are up. So all good news in that front. I think a couple other things just to hit on as you're reviewing this information. We've hit, President Corcoran has mentioned it several times, but we've got our deferred maintenance. We've taken a pretty good gash into that budget. So that was at $66 million at the beginning or last year around this time. We're now estimated around at $30 million. So we've done a pretty good job actually getting to that, which is reflected in our carry forward projects that you see on the back sheet of this packet. Without any other, I don't want to dive, I mean, I could spend all day talking about this, but I know everybody wants to move on with their lives for today, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, because it's a lot of information.
So let's have a motion to.
Just an update.
Was it an update?
Just an update.
Oh, just an update. Okay, are there any questions? Comments? Yes, Trustee
I have
Lee.
a question about the athletic budget, and I'm not sure if this is the time or if that's going to come after.
I think it would, Madam Chair, I think it would be an appropriate time. I don't know the question,
Yeah.
but.
So I In November, you sent us finally the athletic budget, and there has not been a committee meeting at which we've been able to discuss the athletic budget. And so athletics do add a lot to a school. That's a good thing to have around. But I am concerned about the disparity in the budgets for male and female teams on the campus. And specifically, if we look just at basketball, which is supposed to have a roughly equivalent number of students playing on the male team and on the female team, 20 each according to the documents here, there's a disparity. Well, the female team has half of the budget of the male team. And I'm wondering if there is any justification for that. If you look at any of the categories, barring one, there is a significant increase in the amount spent on the male athletic basketball team for the women's team. And it totals, there's $45,000 in expenses, not counting the salaries of the coaches for the women's team, and $94,000 for the men's team. And I don't really understand why that is legitimate.
Those are excellent questions. So I'd actually like for Mariano Jimenez to address a couple of those because he is more of the detail on that.
Thank you. Come on up.
Sure thing. So our projection was for 20 women's basketball players, and this projection was over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up having about 8 women's basketball players that came in until the second semester, which was just recently. We added an additional 6. So while we projected around 20 for each team, it ended up being about 20 for men's and about 8 for women's until just now when they came in for after the ISP, which is like late January.
It's consistent with some of the other women's sports, Trustee Reed. You know, again, we started this first of all, hats off to you, Mr. Jimenez, to get into full-fledged membership in the NAIA in almost 5 months, and to hire these coaches and to get 6 teams underway for the fall. Obviously, it was super impressive to the NAIA, so they let us in probably one of the fastest times. So it's an amazing what was done. Having said that, he's recruiting coaches, and those coaches are then recruiting players in April, May, and June when school starts in August. And so what happened is some of the female sport coaches and their recruiting, like basketball, where they only got 8 students. And because of that, they also didn't schedule as many games. And so what you have is less costs on everything, less cost on travel, less cost on food, less cost on students, less cost on uniforms, less cost on everything. And that is catching up. As we mentioned, the bulk of the recruitments for the spring were our soccer and our basketball catching up where we didn't recruit full teams in the fall. But those numbers will equalize, and we can go through them with you to show you that they are equal in terms of right now it's the difference between size and schedule.
So just to sort of press a point, there is one number that is equivalent between the men's and women's sports, and that's $5,000 for additional game expenses for refs and officials for home games. And the men are scheduled to have 15 home events, and the women 21. And yet the budget is the same. So that's just not borne out by what you're saying.
It's the inaugural season, and we've been talking to presidents and athletic directors from not only our state university system, most commonly with the one that's comparable to our size, like a West Florida. And so all of those numbers and those are estimations. We'll get it honed in, and this is our club season. It's not even our first season. But make no mistake about it, the investment in women's athletics and men's athletics, make no mistake about it, we are fully invested in both.
And just to add to that, President Corcoran is correct, and we budgeted at the beginning of the year $737,000 for expenses, and that's the estimates that you see outlined here. We're actually trending pretty well, where we're only spending at $227,000 so far. So we're going to end up coming in way under budget what we anticipated.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions on this budget update? No?
Madam Chair, I think that's the end of the report.
Okay. End of your report. Thank you. Seeing that we've run over by 20 minutes for this meeting, I'm going to adjourn us, and we'll see you again on, in person, April 11th. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Yes.
In reading through the reports, I was impressed by, I know we have growing pains as a school going forward through what's been going on and the improvements the past year. But seeing the reports from the administration, faculty, and staff, and seeing their enthusiasm today for all, you read the report and it's one thing, but seeing the enthusiasm on campus, I'm just very impressed and want to commend everybody involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.